being in the presence of one of the great monastic teachers and leaders here in the Bay Area. I'm now through the little screen paying my respects to Luangpur Mahaprasad. And requesting permission, if I may, speak about the Dhamma. Yes, Bhante. Thank you, Bhante. Oh, there's not Luangpur Maha. Dear friends, I have been gradually working up to having a focus throughout the upcoming 3 months of the Vasa about practicing for peace. This is such a rich topic. There is certainly the ethical component of this peace practice. And there's also certainly an aspect in terms of the bhavana and the meditation, learning how to obtain tranquility of body and mind, which is that peaceful inner state. And then there is certainly the ultimate peace of the fully realized one who's obtained the destruction of the asavas, who is no longer subject to any disturbance resulting from their longing for existence or non-existence, or their any kind of anything to do with the senses, and so without any clinging or any attachment. Therefore, there's nothing to be disturbed anymore. And so that's the ultimate inner peace of one who's obtained that liberation of the heart through insight, through wisdom. There's certainly also an aspect of how the inner work that we are doing has repercussions for the world and for the people around us. And it's not only an inner practice. Indeed, if a person fails in the full, active heart of compassion for the dukkha of the external world, it could be possible that their inner practice, their meditation practice, could not reach up to its full potential. One can use the teachings of Buddhism, the cultivation of mindfulness and practice of meditation in order to get a certain amount of psychological well-being, to overcome the gross obsessions of the mind, and to become stabilized in a level of happiness and contentment. but if, in order to reach the goal, here's what I've noticed. Just for example, the outline of my teaching for today is about the 10 wholesome Dhammas, the 10 courses of wholesome action, or the 10 skillful kammas that a person can do, 3 of the body, 4 of speech, and 3 of the mind. The first that's mentioned on the list is about not killing or taking life, abstaining from any kind of oppression or harassment of any being whatsoever, possessing kindness, compassion, and helpfulness, protecting life. So it's possible to have a kind of a checkbook compliance with this rule. If we're so lucky that we live in a civilized world and we're not actually out there in the wilderness in a dog-eat-dog world where we're encountering wild animals or foraging for our living and in danger of starvation or something like that, but instead just getting our food from the grocery store and perhaps not encountering any threatening and dangerous people who want to kill us, then it's not so difficult to avoid killing. But when we meet a person who's had like the real transformation that's the kind of the promise of this Dhamma, there is such a level of sensitivity, of care and consideration, so that you wouldn't be inconsiderate towards a cat or a dog. You wouldn't be inconsiderate about the ants who have invaded the kitchen. You would be so much aware that we are surrounded in a world where many people don't really care that much about protecting life. And so then all the more determined, it's like we don't need to be distressed and disturbed and upset and angry and reacting with aversion and negativity or even becoming hateful because we see that there are a lot of beings in the world who do practice killing, who do practice being inconsiderate of life, who could care less about protecting life. So it's then becomes a really kind of a profound and challenging practice, how to hold this value of protecting the life of beings, having the consideration of non-harming for beings, and at the same time we know that there is the dukkha of samsara, about that, I could say, the dog-eat-dog world, or the world that doesn't care, that's not so considerate, that it's out there, it's all around us. So we need to be kind of like aware of the nature of the world while we are not neither participating or succumbing to that attitude, not allowing ourselves to become indifferent, uncaring, or lethargic about protecting life, and at the same time not allowing ourselves to be reactive or disturbed. So one who is awake, they say, fully understands dukkha without participating in dukkha. This will be the arhat. This is what we're aiming for. And so we may be somewhere in between that, that we have gained some amount of wisdom, some amount of insight, some amount of stability, some amount of confidence that we know that there is a way out. And our enthusiasm has been activated to protect our own path of liberation. So not only would we personally develop this strong consideration for the life of beings, for non-harming, but we also would be able to speak up for not killing. Without falling into any of the other dangers that I was mentioning. And so, in this way, as these 10 wholesome kammas are described in the suttas, they come along at a certain point in the standard description of the training, that a person who has become disappointed or started to become disappointed and disillusioned with the ordinary life happens to have some kind of encounter with a Buddha or with the Dhamma, that they've had some encounter with, I'm calling it this eye-opening Dhamma, or they've met persons who are practicing who've realized something with this Dhamma, and then having gotten to any kind of level, some taste of that, then they have the motivation for a transformation to come away from the ordinary pattern of somebody who's who not developed any wisdom. And then at that point, there's a stage of the training, which is this ethical purification of really, I know that when I was much younger, see, it's getting to be a long time ago, when I first encountered the Dhamma, well, I wasn't that much of a bad person, but actually when I first encountered the Dhamma, I thought I was one of the nicest people I knew. But then when I met people who were real Buddhist practitioners, I saw how much my own heart was still strongly under the influence of resentment and anger and craving and reactivity and so forth like that. And then I also became strongly aware when I first encountered the Dhamma of how many mistakes I had made earlier in life, especially like in my teenage years. I did a lot of things that were quite inconsiderate, and I had this strong desire to make amends for that, to get out of that, to step far away from those old patterns. And so then there's a stage of the practice in which this raising the level of one's ethical maturity is the project. Putting it in the context, after these 10 courses of wholesome action, it typically describes developing a restraint of the senses so that the mind doesn't get caught up and obsessed with things that we encounter by way of the senses. And then developing the Brahma Viharas, developing kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity towards all beings, including ourselves. And then coming to the practice of meditation and being capable of letting go of the hindrances which are obstacles to wisdom and which prevent entering into meditation. Then letting go of those hindrances and entering into a right samadhi, developing the stillness, the bliss, and the opportunities for insight that comes from deeper meditation. And then after doing all of that, then it says, so far in the project, the mind has become pliable, bright, prepared, and ready. And then it's possible to have the breakthrough of the realization about the Four Noble Truths, at which point one could become a make that transformation to the noble accomplishments. And there can be, depending on the individual, it might take anywhere from 7 days to 7 years, or even longer than 7 years, to obtain the final liberation after that breakthrough has happened. So these 10 courses of wholesome action is coming kind of as a preliminary practice, but it's a very important practice. And I say that if somebody is finding that they've been trying to practice restraint of the senses, mindfulness and clear comprehension, relinquishing the 5 hindrances, developing the satipatthana, developing mindfulness, developing wisdom, developing samadhi, but they seem to have come to some kind of an impasse, or that their practice just goes so far, but it doesn't go all the way, that they don't seem to be able to experience what could be like a breakthrough of wisdom, then it might be that there was something that they neglected in that original practice. And it's for that reason that I think it's very worthwhile to do a real thorough self-examination, and to see whether we have really sincerely undertaken with all of our sincerity and all of our urgency, have we undertaken this purification of the kamas through these 10 courses. The 3 of the body, we talked about this on Sunday, but for those who were not here on Sunday, I'm going to go through them again. The second is abstaining from any kind of filching, theft, any kind of exploitation, cheating, taking advantage, respecting the property and the rights of others. Here in the monastery, I'm on a bit of a bandwagon these days because I notice that when you have a lot of different people coming through, there's a tendency that things sometimes get misplaced, or they get like left laying about, or they might get damaged or torn or broken because maybe somebody doesn't know how to use them properly, or doesn't know how to clean them properly, or doesn't know that it's their that they're invited to take care. And I've had this idea, and this is something I learned from a Burmese Sayalay many years ago, when she was talking about the paramis of the perfections. She was mentioning about having this idea of not harming by being nice to the things. So, like, we have these robes, okay? So, somebody who was generous made a lot of effort to bring this robe into existence. They might have gone to a Buddhist country to get the cloth for this robe, and they might have spent hours at a sewing machine sewing this robe, and so there's so much like a faith and goodness and generosity embodied in this robe. So then, why don't I wear the robe very carefully, and then at the end of the day, why don't I fold the robe up very nicely and hang it on the bar where it hangs, so that it can be safe and not come to any damage. And why don't I take care to clean it? And if it gets any kind of a small, the stitching starts to come undone, or it gets a little hole somewhere, why don't I quickly mend that and take care of it, so that it doesn't become further damaged. And so having that considerate aspect of things is somehow related to not stealing. So I don't just take something that somebody has given and spoil it through carelessness. Instead, when I receive something that somebody has given, I respect it. I respect the good intentions, and I try to take as good care as I can to keep that thing nice, and to keep it nicely, keeping it with consideration. Those of us who are in householders who have to work in jobs, or have to use money and go out and buy things, you have so many different opportunities to either be selfish, or to be considerate in the types of transactions that you do that's relating to property. And you would hope that just the way if you don't get involved with killing, then the other beings will know that they are safe around you. As long as they're around you, you're not going to try to hurt them or take their life. And if you have this practice of not stealing and not cheating, then all the beings will know that as long as they're around you, they're safe in that way. You're not going to bring them to harm. And so in this way, the people around you can be more at ease and more comfortable. You're actually creating an environment for them where they may be able to grow in the Dhamma because of that relaxation and that safety of knowing that they're not going to be taken advantage of. And then the third aspect of these 10 wholesome karmas, the 10, I'm calling them the 10 good deeds. A karma is an action, that's a deed. And kusala, the skillful deeds, skillful karmas. So we can say 10 good deeds. Abstaining from sensual misconduct or sexual misconduct. Don't let your sexuality and your love life be the cause of harm and torture for anybody else. Don't abuse anybody. Don't violate anybody's dignity. Don't insult another person's body. And I think that those of us who are married or who are involved in wholesome intimate relationships may also find a counterpart in that one is able to use one's sexuality in a way which is fully respectful and honoring of the safety and integrity of our own self and of the other that we're involved with. As I'm going along here, if anybody has a question, maybe I may pause here and see whether there are any questions or comments so far about this.
Well, I'm not sure that I have a question, but your comment that this is Shari. Your comment that having other creatures feel safe with us by not doing harm, and same way with people, really was helpful to me for understanding a lot of experiences that I have, because I hadn't really thought about it that way. I didn't have that particular insight. And the one thing that came to mind was years ago when I had the opportunity to go to a monastery in Thailand, and in my bathroom sat this giant spider. It was about, the body size was like about a mouse size, and the legs were huge, and I was kind of scared. And I would turn the light on and leave my hut at night and sit outside, because when I turned the light on, it would go back into the bathroom. So I brought this to the abbess, and or to one of the senior students, and I asked them, well, like, like, is this spider poisonous? Like, I was scared, you know? And because I was basically just sleeping on the floor and I could just see the spider coming out in the middle of the night, walking all over me or biting me or whatever. She said, "Oh, yeah, everybody has one of those in their bathrooms." That they live in the monastery. And she said, "Just say metta to it." So my thing was, it sounded like, you know, kind of a myth. Like, if I say metta to the spider, it's going to be like some magic incantation, right? That's going to keep the spider away. But actually, what it did was, I don't know, somehow or other, because I then felt a little bit safer myself, I think the spider might have felt a little safer and not as threatened, and maybe didn't feel like they needed to come out and explore me or protect their their property, right? So that I think that's the same way with people as well. You know, the people that we run into is trying to maintain our cool. And like, I find that saying metta often helps me have some insights into other people's suffering, and then I can be more compassionate. And I do think people sense that there's some kind of energy that we give off when we're feeling safe, and we wish safety for others, and they know that we're not a threat. Um, so thank you for that.
You're welcome, Shari. The last 3 of these 10 courses of skillful action are involving the mental attitudes. And you can see how the physical behavior and the mental attitudes, as well as the speech, both how we talk to the other beings. I don't know if you were telling the spider, go away, or something like that with a harsh speech towards the spider, or whether you were doing some like inner talk about, you know, being fearful or something like that. So then there's the kind of a synergy happening between the actions of the body, the talk, the speech that we do, and the mental attitudes. It can happen that sometimes it's like not that obvious how to behave in the right way. I guess I can give an example. We're getting some plumbing done, and so the plumber was not able to finish the job in 1 hour, and he asked if he could go on, and you know, it would be more money for us. So then, like, at one level, like the one level of fairness is to respect and appreciate the competence and goodwill of this professional person, and with appreciation, give him the chance to finish the work. And then, sort of like on the other hand, it's the support foundation will be paying the plumber, and it's hard enough for them to, you know, take care of all of the needs and requisites for the monastics, and I don't want to take advantage of the plumber, and I don't want to take advantage of the support foundation. So there I am, like in the middle, and the plumber's looking at me to get the answer. So you know, we could. That's just a very completely trivial example, but if you've been a parent and had all the difficulties and challenges of raising a child, you will know that very often it's like it's almost impossible to know what the right course of action is. When should you call your child out for the behavior that needs correction, and when should you let it go and just let the child find their own way or be relaxed. You know, how much hovering you should do, how much controlling you should do, how much letting go you should do, how, you know, it's just 100 different ways, so many challenges and so many difficulties. But if you've got this overall criterion with the body, with your physical behavior, and that's very clear and bright and shared, and you can speak with your children about these values, and also then cultivate those right attitudes. Then even if your child is not satisfied with you when they're young, or when they're a teenager, or when they're a young adult or something like that, later on they'll remember that you always meant well, that you're doing your best to help them and not to hurt them. So I'm going to go on with reading the four right courses of right karma, or skill good deeds with speech. Abstain from false speech, lying, deception, tricky speech, speaking only the truth, not intentionally saying anything that strays from the truth out of a desire for personal gain, and not telling lies to protect another person either. That's one. And then the next one here is abstaining from malicious speech. That would be like backbiting, inciting one person against another, taking what you heard here and repeating it elsewhere so as to divide people who were previously united, speaking only words that are towards conciliation, conducive to harmony. And again, I think it is really so powerful when we can practice this openly, whether it be in the public sphere, or whether it be at work, or whether it be within our family. If we can discuss about these values, and say, well, you know, we recommend not speaking in a way that will create divisions. Speak in a way that creates reconciliation. And vote for the person who is in favor of kind speech and harmony, who's conciliatory, who's in favor of cooperation, not one who is in favor of divisiveness and conflict. So there are so many levels in the world. It's a tremendous challenge to speak with such care and diplomacy, to really have the know-how to be able to manifest our good intentions and to control our speech, so that even if there's a difficult situation, or even if our own emotions have gotten triggered or something like that, to be able to speak in a way which is harmonious. Then the next one is abstaining from coarse, vulgar, and harsh speech, including insulting speech, inconsiderate speech, using words that are polite and pleasant. And then the fourth one in this group is abstaining from worthless or frivolous speech, speaking words that are true, reasonable, useful, and appropriate to the occasion. I have one friend, well, I haven't been in touch with her for a long time because she's moved to Australia, but she had a daughter, and I used to stay in that home when I had to give teachings in Oakland, so I had a chance to be with that family and seeing how how this mom and daughter were interacting with each other. And it was really it was quite interesting. It, it was kind of like attending a seminar in ethics, because that young girl was constantly encountering so many difficult and challenging situations. And then they were able to talk and consult and confer about it. And I think that mom was, in a way, sort of like using the Socratic method to, really bring out what her daughter's insights and understanding would be about the right way to deal with the many challenging things that she encountered. And so this is, I think, indeed, in whatever situation we're in, whether if we're in a community like we are here in the monastery, or whether at work or with the family or out in the public square, that this ought to be our ongoing dialogue about how to learn how, really with sincerity. So if there is been some kind of a break, and I know that out in the world there's been a lot of breaks, there are whole entire groups of people that barely speak to each other, that barely listen to each other anymore, and who have even developed negative stereotypes about various groups. And so then we really need to do more work to engage and to speak in this fruitful and wholesome way, so that we are not just withdrawing into a comfort zone of just only associating with people who are agreeable and pleasant, who share our same values, and who are very nice to be around. And then, so as long as we're here in this like polite society of people who are just like us, then we can keep our speech like soft and gentle like that. But that's a little bit too smug, isn't it? And shouldn't we also sometimes go out of our comfort zone and speak with people who have different ideas than we do, and find the way to develop harmony, kindness, and conciliation among with all people. And it's also this kind of bad speech is also good or bad speech. This skillful speech is also possible to do internally to us. We may find that to whatever extent we still have the taint of greed or hatred within us, that could be manifesting in some kind of inner speech. And even though we polite enough that we don't speak that way, but it's still there. This happened to me. Okay, this is one of my teaching stories that I tell on myself. When I was very, very, I was, this was in the first couple of months of my life as a bhikkhuni. There was another a bhikkhuni who was extremely difficult person for me to be around. She seemed to be somewhat obsessed about me and was frequently complaining about me. So on one occasion, we had a retreat, so that I was within the period where I was in silent retreat, just staying in my kuti, in silence, not talking to anybody. And then my colleague was helping to serve the retreat during that interval of time. and my colleague got in trouble. And somehow or other, even though I was in a silent retreat, I managed to hear about it. And then I was tortured. I didn't have 1 minute of meditation. I was just tortured by wondering what was going to happen to my colleague because of the trouble that she was in. And so I did this kind of it was a desperate situation. It was just a torment. It was the most tormented, horrible attempt at a self-retreat that I ever did, because so then I did a bit of inner dialogue, and I sort of asked the person within me if what did I really want with respect to my Bhikkhuni colleague. And the answer came out so loud and clear. It says, I want to get rid of her. And it was like so horrible. It was so embarrassing to be a Bhikkhuni and to have such a horrid, ugly, vicious thought. So this was a kind of a meditation, a form of meditation that I use. I still use it sometimes. And it's just, it's calling a spade a spade. So it's just to take like that which is negative or unskillful within, that, and I'm not buying into it. But rather than just suppressing it and pretending it's not happening, just to say what's happening. And so there was this voice, this dialogue, and then as soon as I saw it, then I quickly had the urgency about how to take care of it, and I undertook steps like for my own self-care to bring myself away from that ugly and negative thought once I had acknowledged it. So this is why I'm saying that this talk, this like a malicious speech, can be not what is spoken out loud, but what is a speech which is happening within us. So we've got to see it. Yeah. So now I've brought out this thing about speech, and I want to invite if there's anybody who has a useful question or comment about the wholesome, skillful way to practice these 4 kinds of good deeds with speech. What did I do? Okay, so I said instead of doing something harmful for that other bhikkhuni, I should do something helpful. And even if it seemed to be sort of insincere, I intentionally gave a gift to that other bhikkhuni. That was one part of it. And then another part of it was I did a sort of like analysis of like where this was coming from a perspective of truth. And so whatever negative opinion I had about that person, my question is that really true? Like my perception? I investigated and challenged my perception and found out that like some perceptions would be like feeding the animosity, but then I could pay attention to some different aspect of of her that would be more towards feeding compassion or feeding goodwill, and I could pay attention to those aspects of her that were supportive to having compassion and goodwill, and to ignore, for the time being, all those thoughts or those perceptions that were supportive of ill will. And then many other practices. This actually launched me into a whole project with investigating dukkha by way of the five khandhas, and investigating afflictive emotions and finding ways to come out of afflictive emotions. But one part was that the vicious intention was to intentionally do things which are not vicious, to intentionally do things which are good. And then even if it seems to be insincere at first, actually the mind follows the body in that way. Okay, so I'm going to go to the three good deeds with the mind. Not being greedy, not focusing just on taking, thinking of giving, thinking of sacrifice, thinking of making the mind generous. Thinking of being contented with whatever has come to us, just as it is in this moment. Every moment is the result of billions of causes and conditions preceding that have led to the particular circumstance of this moment. And just accepting in a way like is perfect whatever's coming up in this moment. That's part of renunciation, is not being dissatisfied with the way things are, but simply fully accepting and fully knowing the way things are, just how it is. I don't mean being nurturing something which is unskillful, but I mean that which is already the fruit of the previous conditions has to be understood and accepted. The thing that we should try to control or possibly try to change is what our intention is towards the next act that we're taking. But that idea of nekkhamma, or renunciation, is that very deep level of being content with things, with what is, with what's arising, which is there because of the previous causes. And then the next one, not thinking hateful and destructive thoughts, not having a destructive attitude towards others, having good intentions towards others, spreading goodwill, aiming for the common good. So this is the cultivating the thoughts, the Brahma Viharas, of loving kindness towards all beings, regardless of any of their qualities or anything about them, just simply wanting their welfare. Having the thought of compassion, that those who are suffering should be able to come out of their suffering. Having the thought of sympathetic joy, to appreciate whatever success other beings have, and to wish for them not to lose whatever they've gained. And having that thought of equanimity, which is all the opposite of hate. This doesn't mention fear, but hate and fear are very close. So finding the way to be fearless is also part and parcel of finding the way to make the mind free from ill will. And then the last is cultivating the right view. Now, at the beginning, or a little earlier in this talk, I mentioned how these 10 courses of right action lead to restraint of the senses, the practice of loving kindness and the Brahma Viharas, giving up the hindrances, developing meditation, seeing reality as it really is, and then finally having the opening of being able to realize the Four Noble Truths. That's the noble right view, when we realize the right truths. But there's an initial right view, which is something that is most relevant to this stage of our path of practice. And that is understanding causation and the law of karma. Understanding that when we suffer, it is typically because of some unskillful previous karma. And a psychological suffering is very often because we are holding on to something that's unskillful and not willing to let go of it. So if I was holding on to my ill will towards my colleague years ago, as long as I held on to it, I was writhing in agony. When I was able to let go of it, I experienced the release. I have found that the first noble truth about dukkha is very much like a, it's not just something to understand in concept, but it's like the tool for learning. So if we understand that craving is the cause of dukkha, and then each time another layer of the onion is peeled away and we realize at some different level that we were not previously aware of, that we are still hurting ourselves because of what we're choosing to hold on to or what we're choosing to keep our craving. And then if we see that and are able to let go and experience that release, that's how we go step by step through this path of training. So understanding the law of karma, that the very definition of unskillful or immoral, what you call unvirtuous actions, would be those actions which lead to continue perpetuating the suffering with ourselves and other people in both. And understanding that skillful deeds are virtuous deeds, ethical deeds, are those deeds that lead to the allayment, release, and emerging from dukkha, coming out of dukkha and suffering. And then, when we read the recitation that's done at the Wat Budona Sarn in the morning, earlier this practice, it had the reflection of gratitude for mother and father. One of the traditional things that's given in this part of right view is understanding and acknowledging what we owe mother and father who gave us life, and who cared for us when we couldn't care for ourselves. And then realizing that that gratitude and appreciation, having that gratitude and appreciation for teachers, mentors, anybody who sets a good example for the Sangha, for the teacher, for those who have such great wisdom and kindness that they just want to help us, and they're so able to use their skillful means to help us, having that gratitude for that. And then also having gratitude for beings who are maybe not so perfect, but they still want to help us. They're still doing their best to help us, and so we can be grateful for that. Or even beings who are not even skillful beings, even ordinary commonplace beings in the world who just, they have what they have in common, like all beings have the desire for happiness. Okay, so any being, whether it be the spider or whether it be the person we meet on the street or the person who's doing something bad and unskillful, they're doing it because they have a desire for happiness. And so within all those beings, because of that longing for escape from this round of dukkha, that's where the potential for awakening lies with all beings. And so part of this appreciation is that, as Ajahn Chah said, the whole world is teaching us. So not only did the Buddha teach us, not only are our mentors and advisors teaching us, not only did our parents teach us, but the spider is teaching us. That extremely difficult colleague is teaching us. And so this is an aspect of this initial right view, is that ability to learn. But in particular, that initial idea about causation, which then subsequently matures into the realization about dependent origination, where causation in effect becomes everything, and the delusion about the self comes to be evaporated, because one simply sees the stream of causes, which are mistakenly reified in our minds in the delusion of the self. So, or as another friend and teacher of mine, she used to be in this class, Diane, when she was alive. One of her mantras, one of her sayings was, "It's not personal." That's a wonderful expression, a wonderful and profound expression of right view. It's not personal. So we're coming up towards 9 o'clock. I hope that this review is useful, and I hope that each of you would think about doing a bit of a self-examination and see if you've really kept your commitment to these 10 kinds of good deeds is really alive for you, or whether you've perhaps come to be negligent in maintaining and sustaining, having the right direction in making the sincere best effort that we can to understand these and to practice with them. Okay. Let's close by paying respects to the Triple Gem. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi.
Svakato Bhagavata Dhamma Namasa Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Thank you, Ayya, for the beautiful Dhamma sharing.
Yes, and my respects to Bhikkhu Ganeshan, who's here, and thank you for introducing yourself by name so that I can know your name. Sabbe Buddha Bala Bhakta Bhakshikaran Jayam Balam Arahantanam Jatejina Rakam Bandami Savasu.
Thank you, Ayya, for the wonderful teaching. Bow to our teacher.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you, Ajahn. Thank you, Ayya. It was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay.